are separated.
जी हाँ, आप अपनी स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं कि हम पूरी तरह से सेफली और सॉफ्टली चंद्रमा की सतह है। ये हम लोगों के लिए बहुत ही गर्व की बात है।
We are speaking to India's moon stars, people who made Chandrayaan-3 at the bench level a success. We spoke to P. Veramuthuvel, whom I call Shiva, and now let's speak to Kalpana K, the Associate Project Director for Chandrayaan-3, and we have the Vikram lander and the Pragyan rover in 1:1 behind us. And Kalpana I call Shakti. Prime Minister Narendra Modi named the landing point as Shiva Shakti and gave the explanation for Shiva and Shakti. So after Shiva, let's speak to Shakti in Kalpana. Kalpana, how difficult was it to put Chandrayaan-3 together?
Chandrayaan-3, as I said earlier, it's a massive project of a very high scale. So there are multiple systems involved, particularly when it comes to a landing mission. It's unlike any other remote sensing mission or any other communication satellite. This is a different ball game. So there are a lot of new technologies involved in lander, for which we have to build in to achieve soft landing. So considering all this, it's a high scale of project, multiple teams involved, and yeah, we are going to do it second time to accomplish the goal, finish the unfinished, which we had taken up during Chandrayaan-2. So all this put together, definitely it's a big challenge, but we work towards it in a focused manner, in a systematic way. When we started off Chandrayaan-3, we knew what has happened in Chandrayaan-2. After thorough reviews, we had a failure analysis committee. We reviewed it thoroughly and looked at every bit of the telemetry data what we acquired. So we understood what has happened to a great extent, and then we went towards building the satellite. So the total approach was systematic. So we step by step we have went towards the mission accomplishment. So after we have understood, we have reconfigured the satellite. So when we are reconfiguring, we were very sure what all we need to do. So first, rectify what has happened, and then what more needs to be done to build the robustness.
How did you get the teams to work together? You have a very soft, very smiling and an intense person. How did you get so many different teams from so many different parts to work together?
Definitely, I would say how we are focused on the objective. The complete team was focused towards accomplishing the goal. So that itself is a big motivation for the team. We have to finish this project on a 100% success note. So the team by themselves firstly are motivated towards success, and then all we have to do is keep the team together and work towards this common goal. So for this, the challenge is the teams are not functioning from one place. All are placed across different centers, different cities of ISRO and across the country. So we have to ensure that the teams are working in sync and all the requirements are well understood, the interfaces are very well built, and all have to work in complete coherency and sync.
How did you work during COVID? Because most of the time when you from Chandrayaan-2 to Chandrayaan-3, there was a large chunk which was with COVID-19, and a lot of institutions were kind of shut down. India was shut down. How did you manage to do these hot tests, cold tests, and assimilate everything together?
Actually, that period of time we utilized very productively or very usefully to conduct what all possible we can do from home. There was a period where we had to work from home only. So that period we utilized very nicely to build the spacecraft on paper. because there is a lot of paperwork, document or paperwork involved before we actually go towards the hardware building. So starting from the specification, finalizing, all the interface finalizing. When I say interface, it is all the electrical interfaces, mechanical interfaces. On paper we have to build it, and all the requirement documents we have to write it thoroughly, and all these things that period we have utilized very productively for this. And also we got all the reviews done, because this can happen in online mode also, wherever we are from home. So the review process we did, all the design reviews, we have several reviews, like we have the critical design reviews, preliminary design reviews for new elements, and then lot of requirement reviews, software requirement reviews, functional requirement reviews. All these things we conducted during this COVID time, so that period was solidly utilized. So once the COVID was over and we were coming back to offices, we are ready with the satellite on paper. So next is going towards hardware building. So that way we had utilized the COVID time.
How did you manage work-life balance? It is a complex mission. Lot was resting on your shoulders and Veeramuthu's shoulder, and the entire team. Also India, they were supporting you fully. How did you manage work-life balance?
Work-life balance, when you say, it is equally challenging for both men and women. So we have to, it is not the same always. There are times where work is very, very more challenging moments are there. Like when we conducted the special tests, or during this, even the recent critical mission operations time, and all the very important phases of this satellite realization. There are very important phases, we know that is very important moment. We prioritize for work, and also we understand the certain situations of the team on the personal front when they are really into some important things. We have that understanding. So as a team we have worked towards this, and we prioritized primarily for work, because we know the pressure is on us. The responsibility more than pressure.
How did your family react to that?
No, they were very supportive, definitely, because they know towards what we are working, because we are going second time, what is the responsibility on our head. We are all aware. Whatever I say is common to all our teams. I am not telling just my family. This is applicable for every team's member, because all have been working for extended hours and with full focus they have to work. Nothing from family should be carried forwarded to disturb the attention. So I feel like every team member's family had this in their mind and very well supported the team. That's how I feel that this could be possible.
Now, there is one question which I need to ask you, and I know, having worked closely with the Indian Space Research Organization and seen the clean room and the shop floor, and found no difference between men and women when they worked there. Were you chosen to be the leader of this team in a way as the associate project director because you were a woman, or you got it because of talent?
No, not at all actually. I would say 100% in ISRO. Like your talent speaks, your commitment speaks, your inclination towards work speaks. So whoever is able to contribute to the organization with utmost commitment and your own inclination towards work, you are given the responsibility. So absolutely there is no gender bias or gender disparity. It is work which speaks, is my genuine observation, or what I have seen in our...
No, we saw Chandrayaan-2. Vanita was leading the whole effort where Veeramuthu.
There are examples actually. So many of
us. Was there.
Tenmodi madam was Oceansat-3 project director. Vanita madam was our Chandrayaan-2 project director. Our Nigar Shahji madam is our Aditya project directors. And we have several deputy directors, group directors, many are there. In our team we have several women deputy project directors and lot more project managers who are technically very capable and also putting their best efforts towards. If there were many moments where we ourselves were telling, okay, you go home, it's already late, but they would always want to finish it and then go home. There were many moments like that.
Because I remember you saying that your team was breathing in and breathing out Chandrayaan. Is that correct? Really, that was the situation where you were 24/7 thinking about the moon in some way or the other? Definitely.
That's why it genuinely came out of my mouth. What I told is very genuine, because that was the mindset of the team. So it was because this was one goal towards which our team was working. with utmost commitment. So that was what
Now beyond this, when now India is planning to do another mission to the moon and there is possibility of a lander mission to Mars, and you're still very young, you have many years to give to India. What are your personal goals? Where do you want your career and India's career to move in the next 10 years?
So if you ask me, what I would say is like, it's not that this mission or that mission. Whatever work given, I would like to do with the utmost commitment and sincerity. Whatever be the mission, with whatever management wants us to take up, wants me to take up, do it with utmost sincerity. That's what I would feel. It's not.
How difficult was the communications and the electronics aspect of Chandrayaan-3? Because you had a propulsion module, you had a Vikram lander, and you had a Pragyan rover, one talking to the other. How did that all go about? Can you explain that?
Yeah, I think you would have already seen about the other systems. Dr. Veeramuthil would have explained about all the systems which are on lander. If you see, there are so many systems. Like starting, we classify it as in a satellite as a mainframe systems and the payload systems. Payload systems are the scientific instruments which are going to give the science outcome. Apart from that, the complete other systems we refer to as mainframe systems. In any satellite, we have a certain set of systems like the power systems, the housekeeping systems which involve the onboard computer, and the attitude and orbit control system, that is the sensors, and the actuators like the wheels and also the thrusters.
So what was the communication profile? Who was Vikram talking to, who was Pragyan talking to, and when were you hearing from from all three of them? What was the configuration?
Yeah, just before I go on to the communication, what I wanted to complete is, apart from these generic mainframe systems, there are many advanced technologies also in the lander. That is about the sensors like absolute sensors, inertial navigation systems, and the propulsion systems where you have seen. So all these have to talk together. So for this, we will have a centralized onboard computer and also the navigation guidance and controls electronics, which will be interfacing with all these systems. So we have standard interface protocols which are defined, electrical interface protocols which are defined, which we will be utilizing to communicate between the systems, acquire the data. So acquire the data from all the systems and then store it, format it, bring it to a standardized format. And this has to, as you asked now, this has to be communicated to ground, because what is happening, how do we know, is only through the data.
Correct.
So for this, on lander, we have two streams of communication. One is in S-band, where we will be getting the complete telemetry of the lander. That is, you can call it as a housekeeping telemetry of the lander. This will be happening in real time. For that, if you see, we have omnidirectional antennas are available, because any orientation of the lander, you should be able to get this, because this is a minimum required thing. We should know what is happening on the lander. So this comes in the S-band from the lander. Apart from this, we have one more, which is the X-band. Here we will be getting a high data rate information about the payloads and also the auxiliary data. Like the sampling rate is very good. High sampling data will be getting. This will give you even more finer details about all the function. This will be coming in a near real time. That way we have two streams of communication from lander. But when you say rover, this communication from lander is directly to the ground station. But when it comes to rover cannot communicate directly to lander. So we have an S-band link from rover to lander. You can see here two.
So the rover
antennas
talks to the lander.
Yeah.
The lander then talks to either Bengaluru or wherever, and also to the orbiter of Chandrayaan-2.
Orbiter, actually, we have built it as a contingency link. It is not the nominal link. So what we did was, there is always a plan A, plan B, which we have planned for every particular aspect of the system. That way, this was one of the redundancy link. You imagine a scenario where, say, lander has also landed safely, but maybe it is having some obstruction. There is some obstruction, some boulder or anything between the line of sight of the lander and ground station.
The ground station.
So only we are not able to get a communication. So it's still landed. So we should not afford to miss the communication. So what we did was, we have our own Chandrayaan-2 orbiter functioning very well in the orbit. So what we did is, we have RF systems built in Chandrayaan-3 lander. So whenever the orbiter comes above the lander, this will have a link. So wherever it is, it can still communicate to Chandrayaan-2 orbiter.
Now,
So it's like a data relay.
okay, on top of that, we see that little dome. What is that dome on top?
That is a propellant tanks. We have 2 tanks. So oxidizer and fuel tanks. It's a projection of that actually. And propellant tanks we have inside. And what you see in the front, you see a tripod, right?
Yes.
So the tripod is housing the antennas. So we have 2 antennas for communication with the rover, and other one is for the communication with the orbiter. So normally we project it such that the clear FOV is available, field of view.
Sure.
So
Field
that
of view.
yes.
Now, a lot of people ask me, why is it always gold colored and why do you have to use gold foil? What gives the advantage?
No, this is actually MLI we call. It's a multi-layer insulation blanket. So it is a multiple layers of material which is put together, which will be providing as an insulation. That is, whatever the dissipation from inside of the lander will not be left out, and from the outside environment is not going to affect inside. So it is it's a thermal insulation blanket.
So it will keep whatever temperature is required inside.
Conducive.
It will keep that way.
Yeah. And why it is like aluminized mylar you tell actually, because of that Kapton effect that you get that color. Otherwise it's a thermal blanket. It's a thermal blanket.
It's a thermal blanket. Because all satellites,
Yeah,
we see that it is always like this.
Yes.
Now, what was your feeling when Vikram landed, one, and when Pragyan rolled out? These 2 moments.
So first is the landing. So we were eagerly looking at the trajectory, phase by phase. You know there are 4 phases. You know about the 4 phases
Yes.
of the power descent.
Let's come straight to when it landed. When you saw 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and India invented 0.
Yes.
So what was your feeling?
It's the most unforgettable moment. We were looking at the screen, and yes, the 2 engines were shut off. And in fact, even before that itself, we were very excited when we got the hazard detection avoidance camera 3D match when we got, and we got to know the safe grid point, and lander is moving towards that. Almost the confidence level was good actually, but still we are waiting till the last moment where touchdown has to be detected and the engines have to shut down. So when the 2 engines were shut down and touchdown detected, it was complete jubilation in the, it's a big sigh of relief. Little we were trying to pinch ourselves and yes, it's over, like we were trying to do that, but it's really unforgettable actually.
Because you were also part of the team of Chandrayaan-2 and you were in the control room when you saw that crash landing.
Yes.
So between crash landing and successful landing, it gave you a lot of joy.
Lot of joy, lot of joy. It was, for some time it was not sinking in, like yes, it has happened. We were trying to just bring it to our hearts and trying to rejoice. It is something we cannot express in words.
And what was it like when Pragyan came out?
Pragyan came out, it was, we were already, it has sunk in, so we were into that jubilation mode actually. So when Pragyan came out, 2 things were, 2 moments we cannot forget. First is when we first got the glimpse of rover on the ramp. After the ramp opened, the first glimpse of rover was one moment which gave so much joy. And when we saw our flag, Indian flag, that was one moment the total control room was roaring with claps and laughter, and almost our hands became red. And so when we saw the Indian flag, it was totally something which our full team cherished. And also when it touched on the lunar surface, and like we have touched the lunar surface, our Indian mission has touched. So these are the moments I feel like it's something, it will be close to our heart throughout our lives.
It will live through your life.
Lives, definitely. Every team member will watch for it.
Now there is one thing which I personally wanted, was that there would be a pop-up mechanism to show the Indian flag. Why did we not have a pop-up mechanism? Because you perfected that in poem when you did a flag on 15th of August, Antriksh mein Tiranga. Why could we not put a flag?
It's so nice of you to think of such things also. That shows like how much of thought process you also have towards the our mission. We can do many things actually. It's not a thing. We can plan many things, but our focus was on one aspect. Like we were more focused towards demonstrating soft landing and rolling out a rover and doing in situ measurements. So we wanted to keep our total energy and attention and work towards this soft landing accomplishment. And the more and more we add many other things, slightly our focus may go towards it. These things we can do, it's not a big deal. But the primary reason is this: we wanted to focus completely towards soft landing.
So let me ask
and not not bring in other aspects.
So you were focused on making sure that we have a soft landing, and your focus was not to put something which would distract you from your main job.
Towards that we have thought to the maximum, I would say.
Sure.
Like towards soft landing, what all, see, we have thought, we have sat together, there are so many brainstorming sessions we have had. On this aspect, we have had lots and lots of discussion, like what are all the possible, what can fail, what are all the possible failure scenarios. So we were trying to recreate some failure scenarios and trying to see if our lander is able to handle that. What all the autonomicity we can build in the lander, how much of intelligence we can build in. Towards this we have done whatever required.
You did brilliantly, and I have no doubts about that. Now, in Mangalyaan, and let me tell you, we did not have the Indian tricolor anywhere. In Chandrayaan-1, in the moon impact probe, we had the tricolor when it went down on the moon surface. Next time when you do some big mission, please have the Indian flag. And also have a pop-up so that we can see the flag.
We will definitely.
We'll have a flag seen somewhere. What a beautiful picture it would have made. Naya Bharat with that flag on top. It will not flutter on the moon, but then it would have made a wonderful feeling.
When you say we are able to imagine that and really feel it, definitely we'll keep in mind.
Now tell me a little bit about, let's shift a little bit towards the end to a little bit about your career. Where did you do your college? Are you from one of the IITs? How did you come to ISRO?
So my background, like I was born and brought up in Chennai. My schooling was in Chennai. My college, I did from a normal private engineering college only, from Madras University, not from an IIT. It is from Madras University. After that, it was electronics and communication subjects. And then further I worked in just a private company which was microwave based company. Then I joined in Sriharikota SDSE SHAR as a engineer. It was in one of the radars. And after that I moved to UR Rao Satellite Centre, Bengaluru.
Now, at any stage did you think that you will become Associate Project Director for Chandrayaan-3?
No, it is not that we work towards some designation. It's just take up the work whatever was given, because initially I started off with the small satellites, micro satellites, then the mini satellite bus. After that, I was part of Chandrayaan-2 mission. It is like just a slow progress to a step by step. In various satellites I have worked, remote sensing satellites. And then after that, I was part of Chandrayaan-2 mission. And then later I have taken up Chandrayaan-3
now,
mission.
Vikram and Pragyan are today asleep on the lunar surface. We are in the dark phase, the night of the where they are. How hopeful are you that they will wake up, and what is the plan of action?
See, towards the end of the 14-day life, what we did was we have gracefully put the systems to an off condition, because even before that we have thought of a scheme which is called the sleep and wake up scheme, which we have built in both lander and rover. So at least the critical systems we have tested for this. It has to go through a deep cold test, because you know lunar nights, lander and rover will be seeing a very harsh thermal environment of around minus 150 degree or so. So whatever important avionic systems are there in lander, very sensitive electronic components are there. So for it to survive, it has to survive this deep cold environment. We have put it in a storage condition. That's why it is gracefully switched off and kept in a storage environment. And such a situation we have tested for rover as such, we have subjected to the test, and the power electronics also we have subjected, but there are many more electronics like the important baseband systems and the RF systems. At least we need to get the data from the lander. For that they have to survive. So these systems we have made some assessment to an extent on the component capability of surviving this. We have done to a certain extent, but it's a very harsh environment. For that to survive and come back, we really have to see. We have built the mechanism to automatically wake up, but we have to wait and see, sir, because it's really a challenging environment.
Fingers crossed, hopes are very high that Pragyan and Vikram would wake up at Shiv and Shakti and give India another 14 days and maybe more, and you still have a lot of fuel left in Vikram. Maybe we can do more experimentation. You did a hop test which was so beautifully done, and I also wish the Nari Shakti of ISRO great. They work so hard to make sure that we do well, and at ISRO I have never seen any kind of gender bias, and I repeat that again and again. At ISRO I have worked with several, more than a decade very closely, and women and men work very hard, and you saw Kalpana working very hard, giving us Chandrayaan-3 as a great success. At Chandrayaan-3, we first spoke to the Viramuthuvel, whom I called Shiva, and to Kalpana, Shakti, because that is how Prime Minister Narendra Modi described the Shiva Shakti point. And let us now speak to the person who made Chandrayaan-3 dance all the way from Earth to the moon and then all the way to the soft landing. Let us speak to Mr. Shrikant, the mission director. Thanks a lot, Kalpana ji. May you give India many more missions and make India proud. And let's soon have a man or a woman from India landing on moon or Mars. It may not happen in my lifetime, but it will happen in your lifetime, and I look forward to that. Thanks a lot.